Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm doing a review of the Bromance book club by Alyssa K. Adams. If you saw my November TBR, then you know that I am spending this month reading romance novels. So far we are off to a decent start. So I didn't hate this, but I also didn't love it. If you're not familiar, in this we follow Gavin Scott, who is a Major League Baseball player. He finds out that his wife has been faking it in bed for the past 3 years, which is their entire marriage. Things kind of spiral downhill from there. His wife asks for a divorce and suddenly he realizes that he wants her back. Some of his friends and teammates bring him into their book club where they read romance novels and they form this grand plan to help him get his wife back. So like I said, this was just okay for me. Some things that I didn't like about it were tropes that were used. Some of the lines were super cheesy. Some made me cringe. Some made me roll my eyes. The typical things that I typically find in romance, which other people might think is super cute and swoon over. And that's totally fine, but sometimes that's just not my thing. We already know that. On the other hand, one thing that I did like was that some of the lines were really funny, and there is a theme of accountability, which I think is really important in any sort of relationship. So I decided that I would be open to reading the next book, Undercover Bromance, mainly because it's about one of the characters that I like the most. Otherwise, I'm still not sure if I would read some of her other books. I believe she has another series that is also about baseball players, but so far we're not off to a bad start, and I will be rating this 3 stars. If you have not yet read the Bromance book club and you would like to, this is your official spoiler warning as I go through the characters, get into the plot, and talk about the things that were unnecessary in this book and the reason that it is only getting 3 stars, which isn't bad, but it definitely could have been better. So we'll start with Gavin. I don't hate him, but I also kind of don't like him. For multiple reasons. First and foremost, if you find out that your wife has been faking it in bed, I can understand that you would be upset initially. To then move into the guest room without having a conversation with her and give her the silent treatment for a month, that's fucking childish. And at that point, I don't blame Thea for filing for divorce because it's like, well, that's plenty of time for you to process it and then decide to act like a fucking adult and communicate. And at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is that he let his pride and ego ruin his marriage, and it wasn't even worth it. The issue here is very clearly communication from both sides. Thea's also in the wrong because she should have spoken up, but we'll get to that later. The way that Gavin reacted was a typical male throwing a fucking hissy fit because he didn't get his way, and the whole thing just could have been avoided. I also didn't like how, I understand that the whole point of reading the romance novels was to be able to take from it and apply it to his relationship. However, him quoting direct lines from an 18th century English romance novel was weird and cringy, in my opinion. I also had an issue with the fact that at one point he gets like really flustered and really upset, and he like starts putting on his stuff to go, and Thea says, "You're leaving," and he doesn't respond. He just storms out. At this point, you already know that she has an issue with people leaving her. So why the fuck would you keep doing it? Because then also when he threatens to leave her for real, like, it's used as a tool of manipulation. Manipulation should never be a factor in any relationship, period. That is not up for debate, because if you need to use manipulation in order to get somebody to do something that you want or to fix a problem, there's something wrong. That is toxic. It's not okay. I feel like that was resolved a little too easily. Like, the way that that happened did not make sense. Like, the resolution was way too easy. And frankly, if I have a particular issue about something and I confide in you about it finally, and then you use that against me, we're done. There is no coming back from that. Thea. I also don't hate her, but I don't like her. So I think at the end of Thea's very first chapter, she basically says something like, "Oh, I'll never trust somebody else with my heart ever again." Like, 99% of relationships aren't perfect. So you have one bad experience and now you just never want to have a relationship ever again. That's not how that works. Also, And I've talked about this a couple times now because it keeps coming up. I am not a fan of the I don't deserve love because of past trauma trope, and Thea falls into that fucking category. So here we go with that bullshit again. I also just feel like it's very obvious that Thea and Liv have particular feelings about their dad and the way he is and how he's a cheater and how he keeps remarrying and blah, blah, blah. Y'all know that. So fucking work on it. Do something about it. Go to therapy together. Do something. Like, and now you're letting the shit interfere with your relationship for a reason that doesn't actually make sense. Like, people will be like, oh, well, I watched this happen to somebody else, so it's gonna happen to me. It's destined to happen. That's not how the fuck that works. No. So, I don't know. I just have an issue with Thea because I just don't understand why it's like, this happened to my mother, so it must happen to me too. Like, make it make sense. Bad decisions are not genetic. You can make your own choices. Del, I really like him. I think he's probably one of the top characters in this book because he constantly corrects Gavin, who fucking needs it because he's an idiot. I also like his wife, Nessa. She's probably like the only nice baseball wife that exists in the book besides Thea. So I like that those two couples are at least close. Liv, I wanted to like her because at first she was a very supportive sister. However, she's kind of a bitch, and she said and did a lot of shit to Thea that Thea didn't deserve. It's also like, you know that your sister's going through some shit and then you keep throwing things in her face when it's obviously not the right time for that. I especially didn't like how she got mad that Thea and Gavin were working it out. In what world would a good sister be mad that their sibling is working on their marriage and improving it and making it better? And then the reason that she had was dumb. Like, you're just being a selfish bitch at this point. You don't want your sister's marriage to work out because you feel like you're being left out? The fuck? And again, communication. If you feel like you aren't spending enough time together, if you feel like she doesn't have time for you anymore and you want to be around more, then fucking say that. You're an adult. Act like it. So this is going to be a little bit shocking, but my favorite character is Brayden Mack. He's a dick, 100%, and I don't like that he like flirts with everyone's wives, but when it comes to pointing out toxic masculinity, fragile egos, and all that, he's right. Right on the money every fucking time. And when he was making jokes, like sex jokes to Gavin, and then he found out why he and Thea were having issues, he immediately apologized and he was genuine about it. So that's the reason that I'm interested in reading Undercover Bromance, because that one's supposed to focus on Brayden. It's also supposed to focus on Liv though. So it's kind of bittersweet, but we'll see if I get to that one anytime soon. The last character isn't like super important, but I just want to mention him, Vlad, the one with a very heavy Russian accent. I had an issue with the fact that Gavin referred to him as the Russian because I feel like if Vlad were from any other country, that would be inappropriate. So I don't know why. And this book came out in like 2017. So I feel like better choices just could have been made, but that's just me. So if you saw my review of The Silent Patient, you'll know that tabbing my books is kind of my thing now, where red flags are things that I find particularly troubling or problematic or things that just don't make sense to me. And I do have quite a bit of red flags in this one as well. I have some green flags, which are just things that annoyed me. And then I have one little orange flag down here because I ran out of red. We'll start with the things that just annoyed me, the green flags. No, the green is not anything good, sorry. Those were things that were said that I just like did not agree with. So one of them is like Gavin saying a man can never understand love for children until he has his own, which like all women are not maternal, not all women want to be mothers. That can also apply to women. As a woman who doesn't want children, like I can understand how people love their children so much that they would do anything for them and die for them. Still doesn't make me want to have a kid, but I understand. It's not because I have a uterus, it's because I'm a human being. The other one was when Malcolm says to Gavin, the point is to court her and not seduce her. And Gavin says, what's the difference? It's part of the problem with a lot of people. And the last one, there were only 3 of these. The last one, oh, jumpy, girly emotions. I don't know what the fuck that was supposed to mean. As far as the red flags, yeah, the first red flag was Thea saying that she would never give her heart to anyone ever again, because that seems totally logical. Okay, here's where the manipulation comes in. One thing that I do think is kind of cool about this is that the romance novel that Gavin was reading, we get chapters of that. I don't know if the book is actually real or if she wrote a book to add into the book, but what is it called? Courting the Countess. And in the book, the Count or whatever, Benedict, uses manipulation in order to get his wife to do something that he wants or whatever. He like used her sister against her, which just, why would you ever do that? Like, you can't claim to love somebody and then do manipulative shit. Like, that's not how that works. And then Gavin takes that and uses it against Thea and threatens to take the girls away from her, which is fucked up for so many reasons. Particularly, you should never use somebody's children against them. Second of all, you're threatening to take the children that she raised on her own because she was supporting your career. She literally put her entire life on hold for you, and you're gonna threaten to take the babies that she raised away? That's fucked up. Dumb shit. And this is a problem that I have with a lot of romance novels. Characters will do things that they know are detrimental to the relationship, but they'll do them anyway. Why? Why is that a thing? How does that make sense? If you're trying to fix the relationship, why would you do something that you know would make it worse? That just doesn't make sense to me. And it's like a recurring theme in romance, and it just doesn't make sense. So, definitely had some issues with this one, although I did not hate it. And I am willing to read the next book in the Bromance book club series. I looked at them the other day, and there's one about Vlad, there's one about the woman who owns the coffee shop that Thea is working in. So yeah, it was okay. I'm not disappointed for it to be the first book that I'm reading this month. I'm kind of just like in the middle, and it's kind of just reassuring things that I already know. I don't like certain tropes. I don't like when people do dumb shit. That's just where I'm at right now. So the next book that I'm going to read is You Were There Too. So this is one of the ones that I got from a recommendations video from Books with Shay. I'll make sure to leave that below. This is actually one of 2 books that I have from that video, and we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to keep going. Hopefully this will just help me narrow down what I can and can't tolerate from romance. So hopefully the next book is a little better. I really like Max, so I'm expecting that one will have less like, oh, let me do this really stupid thing that I shouldn't do situations. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, that's all I have for you, and I'll see you in the next video.